So, quick question for you. When was the last time you told yourself just 5 more minutes on your phone, only to look up, what, maybe 45 minutes later, and you realize all you'd done was scroll through news feeds, social media threads that honestly just made you feel worse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that feeling.
Yeah, you know that feeling. That's doom scrolling. And if you've experienced it, and let's be real, most of us have, you're definitely not alone. The question isn't if it happens, really, but why? Why do we get stuck in these loops of negativity? And maybe more importantly, how do we actually stop? Or at least, manage it without chucking our phones into the sea.
Exactly. And that's our mission for this deep dive.
Right.
We're going to unpack the source material we've gathered on this whole thing. We'll pull out the core insights, help you, our listener, really understand the mechanics behind doom scrolling. Not just what it is, but why our brains seem so drawn to it, even when we know it's not good for us. And then, yeah, we'll get into some genuinely practical strategies, ways to help you reclaim your attention and maybe your well-being, too. It's a huge thing people experience, so we want to make sense of it, but, keep it accessible.
Okay, so we've all felt that pull, right? That sort of gravitational force towards the bad news. But let's try and pin it down. When we talk about doom scrolling, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, at its core, it's really the act of consuming just an endless leap of bad news or negative content, usually on social media or news apps.
Yeah, and it really can feel like falling into a black hole of anxiety, doesn't it? Just one depressing headline after another.
Mm-hmm.
A story on global conflicts, maybe a report on climate change, political scandals, even just a local post about, I don't know, the city's budget problems. And you keep scrolling, telling yourself, okay, just one more update and I'll stop.
But that one more never really happens, does it?
It rarely does. And it's so weirdly paradoxical. We hate how it makes us feel, but we just can't seem to look away. There's this constant, almost primal pull. So what is going on in our brains? Why are we so vulnerable to this?
That is the crucial question. Because, the immediate thought for a lot of people is, my brain must be broken. Or, what's wrong with me?
Right.
But what's truly fascinating here, and this comes up in the research, is that your brain isn't broken. Not at all. It's actually operating exactly as it was designed to. It's just being, hijacked.
Hijacked.
Yeah. Doom scrolling taps directly into how our minds evolved over thousands, millions of years. Our brains are fundamentally wired to notice threats first, to prioritize them.
Okay, like caveman stuff.
Pretty much. Think back to ancient times. Ignoring a rustling in the bushes. That wasn't really an option. It could literally mean, becoming dinner for something else. Survival depended on being hyper-aware of potential dangers.
Makes sense.
So, fast forward thousands of years, and our brains still operate on this fundamental better safe than sorry principle. It's constantly scanning the environment now, the digital environment too, for anything that could be a danger. And this leads us to pay disproportionate attention to everything bad, just in case.
Ah, okay. So it's an old feature in a new world.
Exactly. And here's the modern twist. Social media platforms, they get this. They understand this inherent wiring, maybe better than we do ourselves sometimes. And they're designed, often intentionally, to feed you just enough chaos, just enough negativity to keep you hooked.
Wow.
Because, let's be honest, fear is an incredibly powerful engagement tool. It grabs your attention and it holds it tight.
So it sounds like our brains are almost too good at their job, in a way.
Yeah.
But in this digital world, that ancient wiring just backfires completely.
That's a great way to put it.
It's like junk food for your brain, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's compelling, maybe even addictive in the moment, but ultimately it just leaves you feeling sluggish and, frankly, like mental garbage afterwards.
Yeah, mental garbage is pretty accurate.
And speaking of feeling bad, let me guess. After a good, solid doom scroll session, how do you typically feel? Anxious? Maybe drained? Just kind of hopeless?
Mm-hmm. All of the above, often.
The world is actually ending, and maybe you should start stockpiling those canned beans. That distinct heaviness.
I do.
That, my friend, is what we could call the emotional hangover of doom scrolling. And it's not just in your head. It has real impact.
Oh, absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the impact is pretty significant. It definitely extends beyond just a temporary bad feeling. Studies consistently link prolonged doom scrolling to increased stress levels, higher rates of depression symptoms, definitely poor sleep quality,
Sleep, yeah.
and even something called decision fatigue, which is interesting.
Decision fatigue. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's basically when your brain gets worn out from making all these small, continuous choices like what to click next, what headline to read, whether to keep scrolling or stop, that it struggles with even simple decisions later on.
Okay, I think I felt that.
Have you ever spent, say, 30 minutes just scrolling, maybe longer, and then suddenly felt too mentally exhausted to even reply to a simple text? Or, tackle a basic chore like doing the laundry?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. My brain just feels fried.
That's often decision fatigue kicking in. Your brain's been in this constant state of low-grade alert, processing negativity, and it's just plain worn out. And it's not just your time it eats up, this constant diet of negativity. It also eats away at your hope.
How so?
Well, when we're continuously fed fear and bad news, it starts to warp our perception. It can make us believe that nothing good is happening anywhere, that everything is just terrible, even when, outside of those curated, often algorithm-driven feeds, plenty of positive things are actually happening. We just don't see them.
It really does filter your reality, doesn't it? It's sobering to think how much it affects us. I remember a day, I must have spent hours just scrolling, and then later my partner asked me a really simple question about, what we should have for dinner, and my mind just went blank.
Yeah.
Totally blank.
Yeah.
Like my brain hit a wall.
Yeah.
Couldn't process anything else. And here's where it gets, I think, really interesting and maybe a bit sneaky. This whole doom scrolling thing, sometimes it actually feels productive.
Oh, absolutely. That's part of the
You
track.
tell yourself, I'm just staying informed. Or, I need to know what's happening in the world. And that's a valid impulse at first. I mean, being informed is good.
Sure, to a point.
Right. But at some point, it kind of stops being about genuine awareness, doesn't it? It morphs into something else, maybe an unhealthy obsession. It crosses this invisible line where you're no longer seeking information. You're just consuming negativity indiscriminately.
Precisely. And it's a really difficult line to spot sometimes because your brain thinks it's helping you. It genuinely believes it's preparing you for the worst, trying to keep you safe by gathering all this threat information.
But it's not really helping.
No, in reality, it's just frying your nervous system. It's a bit like drinking 10 cups of coffee thinking it'll help you focus intensely, but instead, you're just jittery, anxious, and maybe yelling at your toaster for burning the toast.
Okay, I can picture that. Wired, but not in a good way.
Exactly. You're activated, but not productively so. And this whole thing, it raises a really important question for all of us to consider. What are we really seeking when we get lost in that scroll? Is it truly just information? Or is it maybe something else entirely, something deeper?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's underneath it all? Okay, so we've unpacked the why, the how, the impact. Let's get to the good stuff, the solutions. Because let's be real, we're not going to tell you to throw your phone in a lake.
Tempting sometimes, but no.
Or move to the mountains and become a hermit,
Maybe.
right? That's just not practical for most people. We're just trying to, navigate this internet age with our sanity mostly intact. So how can we actually start taking back some control here?
Absolutely. And the goal isn't to demonize the tech itself. It's about using it more intentionally, empowering you. So here are a few strategies pulled from the sources we looked at that seem genuinely helpful. First one, surprisingly simple maybe. Time yourself.
Okay, like set a timer.
Exactly. Before you even start scrolling, set a timer. Maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever feels manageable. When that timer goes off, stop and check in with yourself. Ask honestly, do I feel better or worse right now than I did 10 minutes ago?
The check-in.
Yeah. If the honest answer is worse, or even just not better, then that's your signal. That's your cue. Step away. Put the phone down. It's not just about limiting the time. It's about building conscious awareness of how this stuff actually impacts your mood in real time.
I like that. That internal check-in forces you to kind of acknowledge the immediate effect, which you usually miss when you're just on autopilot scrolling.
Right.
It's like hitting a mini reset button.
Exactly right. Okay, second strategy. Curate your feed actively.
Right, be the editor.
Be the editor. This is about being proactive, taking charge of your digital space. Unfollow accounts, mute words, block content that consistently leaves you feeling drained, anxious, or angry. And make a conscious effort. Really seek out and follow pages or people that genuinely lift you up or inspire you or teach you something useful, not just the ones that make you feel like the world is constantly on fire.
Yeah.
Your feed should serve you, not the other way around. Think of it like designing your own informational diet. You choose the ingredients.
That's such an important reminder. We often forget we actually have that power. It's not just this static thing happening to us. We can shape it. It's shifting from being a passive consumer to an active curator of your own sort of mental landscape.
Well put. And third, this one's interesting, create a scroll replacement.
A scroll replacement, what do you mean?
It's about building a tiny ritual, something small to interrupt that automatic urge to just grab your phone and start scrolling when you have a spare moment or feel that pull.
Okay, like what?
Well, for example, every time you feel that urge, instead of picking up the phone, maybe you try stretching for just 60 seconds. Or scribble down one thought in a journal. If you have a pet, spend a minute petting your cat or dog, that's always good.
True.
Or, hey, even just stare out the window and judge the squirrels, like you said.
I'm seriously considering the squirrel judging. Sounds strangely therapeutic.
Whatever works. The idea is just to create a small, intentional action that gives your brain a brief pause, a little reset, before you potentially dive back into the digital chaos. It's not just about distraction, it's about starting to repattern those neural pathways away from the instant gratification loop of the scroll.
You know, I actually tried something similar, replacing the urge with just like 30 seconds of deep breathing. And I was honestly shocked how much calmer I felt before I even considered opening an app again. It really does create that vital pause.
It can be incredibly effective, those micro-interventions. Okay, fourth tactic. Consider a news fast.
Ooh, like a digital detox, but just for news.
Kind of, yeah. Try going one full day, or maybe just start with a few hours, without consuming any news at all. No news websites, no news alerts, maybe even mute newsy accounts on social. You might be genuinely surprised by how peaceful your mind feels when it's not constantly being bombarded by updates and alerts.
That sounds both appealing and slightly terrifying.
It can be, but it's a powerful way to demonstrate to yourself that you don't actually need to be on and plugged in 24/7 to, function or even feel reasonably informed.
Okay, point taken. What's the last one?
And finally, this one is perhaps the most crucial, and it requires a bit more introspection. Ask yourself, what am I actually looking for right now?
Back to that deeper question.
Exactly, because very often, doom scrolling isn't just a bad habit. It's functioning as a cover for something else. It could be boredom, sure, but it could also be loneliness or a deeper sense of anxiety, fear, or uncertainty about the future.
So it's like a symptom, not the root cause.
Often, yes. Sometimes you're not really looking for more news. You're looking for comfort. Or maybe a feeling of control in a world that feels very out of control. The negative scroll can paradoxically feel like you're doing something, even if it's just consuming information.
Right, you're preparing yourself.
Precisely. But once you can maybe start to name that underlying need, okay, I'm feeling lonely right now, or I'm feeling really anxious about X, then you can start to find real healthier ways to actually meet those needs. Instead of letting this negative news cycle just masquerade as a solution, which it isn't, it transforms a passive, often damaging coping mechanism into an active, hopefully healthier response.
That's like a powerful shift in perspective. It moves it from just, I need to stop doing this bad habit, to, okay, why am I driven to do this in the first place? It really is often a coping mechanism, isn't it? Just one that actually makes things worse in the long run.
It really can. And here's the thing we have to acknowledge. The world. Yeah, sometimes it really does feel like a mess. There are real challenges out there, real crises happening. That's undeniable. But drowning yourself in the despair of it all, constantly immersing yourself only in the negativity, that won't fix anything. It just paralyzes you. It steals your energy, your focus, and even your capacity for genuine empathy or constructive action.
So true. You just end up feeling helpless.
Exactly. And you deserve peace. You deserve some mental clarity.
Yeah.
And your attention. That is your most valuable currency in this modern, information-saturated world. It truly is. It's what drives your focus, your energy, your choices, and ultimately your well-being. So, spend it wisely.
Spend it wisely. I like that. So if this deep dive resonated with you today, maybe do yourself a quick favor. Just take 1 second, literally 1 second to pause before you open that next app.
Just a beat.
Just a beat. And maybe, just maybe, consider replacing even one scroll session today with something that actually feeds your soul instead of feeding your anxiety. Makes you think, doesn't it? What kind of mental world are you creating for yourself one scroll at a time? It really is all about how you spend that precious attention.
Well said.
Take care of your brain, everyone, and try not to scroll too deep.